When we get to those folks, I'll make sure to call on you.
Yes, please. I have a concern regarding the traffic on Wintras Lane.
Okay. All right, got a bunch more people coming in.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, we got a big crowd because of the park discussion. Okay, all right. It's 6:31, folks, and the meeting is being recorded. Oh boy, I gotta turn this off on Facebook.
You can listen.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just mute everybody to make sure I drown out background noise, and people ought to be able to unmute themselves when they need to. So I'm muting all now, and I'm allowing people to unmute themselves as long as that doesn't become an issue. Okay, the meeting is being recorded, as I said. Welcome to the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Council. I am your chairperson, Eric Edelman, and we are glad we have so many interested Carmel Mountain residents with us tonight and possibly elsewhere. So let me get my agenda here so I can figure out what I need to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is introduction of board members, and that'll also serve as the roll call. So Mr. Secretary, if you could keep track of this while I call on people, that'd be great. And sure. I'm going to keep admitting people as I see them showing up. Okay, so Dan Thompson, please introduce yourself.
Dan Thompson, Carmel Mountain Ranch business representative, longtime Carmel Mountain Ranch resident.
Thank you, Dan. Rich Craigie, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I am a resident of Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Thank you, Rich. And John Schroeder, our secretary.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. John Schroeder, Carmel Mountain Ranch resident for almost 20 years.
Thank you, John. Mark Clark.
Yes, Carmel Mountain Ranch resident.
Thank you, Mark. Boy, I'm still admitting people here. I'm starting to sweat. I hope we don't go over 100. Michelle Mullen.
Michelle Mullen, Carmel Mountain.
Thank you, Michelle. Kurt Carlson.
Everybody, Kurt Carlson, resident since 1986.
Thank you, Kurt. Dustin Leal. Okay, Dustin is not with us. Bruce Bergman.
Here, Carmel Mountain resident, Fairway Village.
Okay, thank you. Larry Fontaine.
Larry Fontaine, Carmel Mountain Ranch resident. I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. And of course, as I mentioned, I am Eric Edelman. I hold a business chair on the board. However, I'm also a homeowner here in Carmel Mountain Ranch and resident for 18 years. And okay, let me get rid of that window so that doesn't bother me anymore. And then the next item of business is to approve tonight's. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Eric, there was one more board member, Kristen Greer.
Oh, Kirsten, I'm sorry.
Greer.
Kirsten, are you there? Okay, doesn't appear she's with us yet. Okay, so how many are present then, John?
Yeah, so we've got all but 2, let's see, 3, 6, 11. We've got 9 present.
Okay, we don't have any, we're not voting on anything tonight, so not worried about that. Okay, so that brings us, other than the agenda and the minutes, that brings us to the approval of tonight's agenda and approval of the minutes from our March 2022 meeting. We did not meet in April. I was gallivanting among the giant sequoia trees in Central California, where it actually snowed while we were there. Fascinating. Hadn't seen it snow in a long time, and it was cold, I'll tell you that. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve minutes and agenda?
I move to approve the minutes of the last meetings and the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Do I have a second?
This is Rich. I'll second that motion.
Okay, so that was motion by Bruce Bergman, seconded by Rich Kregge. Do I have any board member comment or objection to just approving those items? Sounds like no. So we will count that as unanimous consent on the approval of March's minutes and tonight's agenda, which brings us around to non-agenda public comment. So if you have something that you'd like to say to our neighborhood police representative or any of our elected representatives, that's later. If you have anything to say about the golf course, that is also later. But if you have something that is not on tonight's agenda, now would be the time to raise your hand. And I see Becky Rapp has her hand up. Go ahead, Becky. You have 3 minutes. Becky, you're free to unmute yourself. Becky Rapp going once, going twice. Okay, any other non-agenda public comment?
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. I was just able to unmute.
That's fine.
Okay, my name is Becky Rapp, and I am a resident of Rancho Bernardo and a parent. And I am really interested, and I've been following what's been going on at the city with the marijuana ordinance. And I wanted to bring to your attention that last week, San Diego City Council passed a flavored tobacco ban. So starting in January of 2023, that will go into effect, which is great news. But it's also concerning that the marijuana industry is following this exact playbook as the tobacco industry, and feel that as they bring marijuana products into our communities, they should also, any flavored marijuana should also be banned. The city is hosting listening sessions for input on the cannabis equity component of the marijuana ordinance. And they're specifically looking at communities that are, that are disproportionately affected by the war on drugs. There are 8 in-person sessions that you can go and receive and contribute input, but there's also one Zoom meeting on June 15th, and it's from 6 to 8, and it's for all council districts. And I just encourage you to look into this and really participate actively, as these businesses are planning to come and locate directly in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, any other non-agenda public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to move right on to our neighborhood police report with Officer Julie Dratt.
Hey, good evening. Sorry.
That's all right.
In the office. It's a
That's
busy
all right.
day at the office. You guys can hear me okay, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Perfect. So, good evening. So just a few things. One thing is my Lieutenant Ziegler has retired. He retired on May 5th. So I will have a new lieutenant, and he will be happy to meet everyone next month in June. So that'll kind of be our thing, to go around to the community meetings and introduce him. He's not new to our station. He's actually been here. He was working on the other part of our community. So now he's joined us in where I attend. So anyways, I will introduce him next week. I know there's a few things that continue to happen. Catalytic converters continue to be, an issue with getting stolen. As far as I would say a deterrent, again, the cages can be purchased. I couldn't tell you the exact pricing. It depends on where you go, who installs them for you, et cetera. So again, it's just more of a deterrent to try to help with that. And I know that vehicle burglaries, different things, unfortunately do continue. Make sure to continue to park in well-lit areas. Regarding home burglaries, make sure to, with the summer months coming, you're wanting to open the doors. I know it's supposed to be, 80 some odd degrees by Friday. Again, once you leave the home, make sure that you shut all the windows and make sure everything is secured. And I will go ahead and open it up to questions. I believe I know there was one already, so I don't know if there was other hands waiting to ask questions.
Well, I know Mark Mal has a question. So Mark, why don't you go ahead with your question?
Yes, Julie, hi. I have a question regarding the traffic condition on Wintras Lane. We have people driving over 25 downhill from Rancho Carmel going toward Shoal Creek Drive. And this is getting very badly. It's 50 to 60 miles. We see the accidents already, people losing the control and hitting the parking cars, or people pulling out of the driveway garage and they couldn't stop it and they hit the T-bone, the cars. We would like somehow request the speed bumps on Wintras Lane, at least the south part of it. I'm sorry, the west part of the Wintras Lane, or both sides, to control the speeds here, or something else could be done. Can you recommend me what we can do about?
Okay, so regarding traffic conditions, and that actually will bring up another point. So let me skip back one step. The police department has had their website up where it's, you can go in, do different requests for, assistance requests for traffic concerns, et cetera, get it done app. They have actually revamped the website and is much more user-friendly. So for example, with the traffic issues, again, you can go in, request things of that nature, and it'll actually go to our traffic division to then go out to our motor units. So again, traffic concerns can be requested in that way. As far as speed bumps, those are something through traffic engineering. And again, that might be something you're gonna have to work with traffic engineering and contact them in regards to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second what you're saying there, Mark. I drive down Windcrest all the time and people go way too fast. I saw somebody hit somebody, run over somebody's dog, unfortunately, not too long ago. And also I've been actually passed. People have passed me on that street when I'm trying to drive 25 miles per hour on it. And it's kind of out of control. So that is a problem. And I think if Kyrie's here, we'll ask him when it's his turn, and then we'll figure out how to get in touch with traffic engineering to see if there's anything we can do, because that is it's a huge problem.
Yes, Eric, it's a huge problem. I lost my car actually 1.5 years ago to the accident. Somebody swiped it, lost control, and swiped it my car, parked it on the street in the front of my home.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot there at the bottom of that hill, because people get going way too fast.
Is there a specific time frame more than a different time frame? So that way I can mention it also. I mean, I'll mention it directly to our traffic unit. However, it helps and it gets recorded when you guys put in requests online.
Yeah.
But is there a certain time frame?
Yes, it's in the mornings, and it's actually during the day when it's dismissal of the school.
Time frames, because morning time, it could be anywhere from 3 a.m. all the way up to 10 a.m. So if there's a better time frame to help me, where it's
morning, like between 7 and 10. I'll
7
say
and 10? Okay.
Yeah, people when rushing to work, and after, like around 2, 3, like between 2 and 3 o'clock when it's school dismissal, the parents rushing to pick up the kids from school, and they're speeding down.
I'm muting that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically it's during the day, a lot of people speeding downhill in the morning, downhill, uphill, it's after work after 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. I meant to do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Officer Drack?
Yeah, I had a question, Eric. It's Eric Spadali.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so I've used the Get It Done app and it ain't getting done. I've used it 2 times and there's a car that's been parked for several months. I sent in pictures. I was very detailed. And each time the response was, I get an email back saying, yeah, we sent out an officer and the car wasn't there. So I'd like to know kind of what recourse I have at this point. Do I just call officers as a non-emergency inquiry or what's your recommendation?
Okay, so it depends on how you put it in through the Get It Done. Did you put it in as a 72-hour violation, or did you put it in as an abandoned vehicle? Because that'll make a difference if it goes to our parking enforcement unit or if it goes to the vehicle abatement unit. So when you say
Right.
officer, that could be a parking enforcement officer. So that's why it depends on how it went
It was a
through.
parking enforcement officer because I actually saw the officer drive down the street, not get out of their car and then just drive away completely. I don't know if they don't get the images or not. But
It
at this
depends
point,
it depends if when you uploaded, if there was an image.
There was.
The
There were
the
several
good thing
images.
about that, because if there is a report number, I mean, sometimes we can go back and review that report number to see what notes that they put in. If it's, so it depends. I mean, that might be something that you could ask me, offline,
I will,
and
since
we
have
can
to-
look into that further if it's something that's continuing and you're not seeing results.
Okay. And the second part of it, I know everyone wants to get to the meat of the topic tonight, but we are also seeing a lot of speeding down Seabridge. And then with the new construction, I'm sure we'll have a lot more vehicles speeding down Wintras because that's sort of the shortcut to get to the business center. A lot of neighbors respectfully use that. But yeah, they're speeding. We have speed bumps and they've been leveled over time. And so I guess your recommendation is to actually call and get someone else to take care
Yeah,
of that.
for certain, like if there's speed bumps already there, it's kind of like the street signs. I mean, you should be able to go on the Get It Done and request to have them reviewed. If not, reach out directly to traffic engineering.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
One more question I have. I noticed that there's no speed limit sign from top of the hill on Wintras Lane to the bottom on the west side. Only on the east side of the street it's a sign, speed limit. So it's a 25 residential, should be 25.
So is the question that you're saying there's no speed sign posted? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's no speed sign posted from Bolton down to the Shoal Creek Drive. Between Bolton and Shoal Creek is no speed sign on the west side.
So if it appears that there might be a sign missing, that would, again, those are going to be through the streets division. So for street signs, so that would be a request through the Get It Done. Unfortunately, it's not something that we as officers take care of replacing signs. So it's through streets division. So I would go and Get It Done to request a sign to be posted.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I have a quick follow-up. I don't live in that specific area, but I just posted just in the chat. I'm wondering if our HOA can purchase portable speed bumps for that area, since it sounds like there's some safety concerns. They may go missing, of course, but just as a temporary solution, I'm wondering if that's possible, or additional signage, those, the little plastic children that are holding flags somewhere in that area, just to bring attention and awareness to the concern.
You have to be careful on city streets, because where those, for example, when you say like the play zone to slow down signs, the little, typically like the little fluorescent green signs, for example, they cannot be in the street itself. They're supposed to be against the curb. They aren't supposed to be sticking out in the middle of the street to cause a hazard. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, I don't believe that we can. Well, we're not the HOA, but I don't think that the HOA can add speed bumps to a city street. So I think we need to. I will follow up with traffic engineering. They were just emailing me about something else, and I'll follow up with them on this. So, any other questions for Officer Dratt? Okay. Thank you, Officer Dratt.
Thank you.
Once again, always great to see you, and we appreciate your help in our community. and we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, do we have any representative from CMR Fire? Do we have a representative from State Senator Brian Jones' office?
Yes, this is Mark Schaefer.
Oh, there you are, Mark. Look at that.
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. Well, first off, to introduce myself, Mark Schaefer. Some of you remembered me previously working for the previous council member. I just started this month with State Senator Brian Jones and was glad to know that I would be attending the CMR meetings in the future for the senator. So I was very excited about that. I will put my email in the chat, but just, I know you guys have a big agenda tonight. I know the stuff that's been going on. So I'll try to be very brief. Regarding the catalytic converters that Officer Drack talked about, Senator Jones had SB 919, and unfortunately that one died in Senate Public Safety, but there are a number of, it's brought up the issue obviously statewide, and there may be some other legislation that might not be as comprehensive as the senators, but still hoping to find some legislation this year. It's one of them to come through to provide some enforcement on the catalytic converters issue. SAFE Act, which was to bring the equity transparency for the sexually violent predators being placed in our neighborhoods. I know earlier, just north in Rancho Bernardo, there was a potential for one, and just looking for equity on that. Now that was granted reconsideration, but was not brought up for a second vote, and it is done for the year, but the senator will be continuing to advocate for the equity for all of our communities in our county, our district, and the state. And then the last one that is on positive news is SB 1006, which is bipartisan public safety committee bill that is an appropriation suspense file, and it'll be reviewed and voted on by committee before the deadline. And that so far is to allow grants for local law enforcement for homeless support, social workers, medical professionals, to get the homeless off the streets and into care, wraparound services. He even had a budget request of $150 million in March for that grant program, should it pass. So that's kind of a quick update on some of the legislative issues. Also, if you have any issues with state agencies, whatever the acronym or the three letters they are, please contact our office. We can help you navigate the bureaucracy. And I will put my phone number. I'm still using my cell phone, so you might recognize the number, but I'll also put my email in the chat should anyone need to contact our office. But thank you again, and glad to be back.
Thank you, Mark. I'll update our agenda to read with your name instead of just representative. We haven't had anybody, but we're glad to have you, and I'll make that change. Do I have any questions from anyone for Mark Schaefer, State Senator Brian Jones' office? Doesn't appear so at this time, Mark, but thank you again, and we'll make note of your email, and we'll see you next time or sooner.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, Rick Hauptfield from Assemblyman Mainshine's office.
Thanks, Eric. You can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. I know you guys have a lot of people waiting. You guys have a big agenda, so I'm going to do the same thing Mark did. Remind everybody that our office, our elected office, is here to help people. We help a lot of people. We answer a lot of questions. We provide a lot of resources and information. So if you guys have any questions regarding legislation that's being proposed, debated, amended, anything like that that's going on in Sacramento right now, I will put my email address in the bottom. Of course, you can reach out. I was going to make a joke and say that if you had any questions about state agencies, you can reach out to Senator Jones's office. That would probably be good. So Assemblymember Mainshine had a press conference yesterday regarding his bill, AB Assembly Bill 1663. This is a conservatorship bill and makes some changes regarding the legalities. And probably many of you know the story or the drama, or whatever you want to call it, behind Britney Spears. This bill addresses very similar, not exactly the same issues as Britney Spears was going through. I think a lot of us got an education about conservatorships in general through all those programs and documentaries and so on. So Assemblymember Mainshine's bill will address it. Hopefully we'll move forward. And there's a large coalition, which is really nice to see. It's a large coalition of partners that are supporting these changes and are actively pursuing passing this legislation. That's encouraging. You get a big support like that. So again, I just want to emphasize we're here to help. If you need anything from a state agency, you want us to advocate on your behalf, just like Mark said, those 3-letter acronyms, we're here to do that. And yeah, outside of that, I hope this was short enough, and I'll put my information in the chat. Thanks, Eric. Any questions?
Welcome. Thank you, Rick. Does anyone have any questions for Rick tonight? Doesn't seem so at the moment, Rick. So thanks for showing up, and thanks for your contact info and your continued support.
Eric, you're welcome. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. All right, now I have on the agenda County Supervisor Tara Lawson Reamer's office, although I believe that's not correct any longer. Mark, I believe your name was? Mike. Sorry, Mike. Sorry.
Yes.
Go
Supervisor Anderson is honored to now be representing both Carmel Mountain Ranch and Sabre Springs. So fully all that community is in District 2 now. So you're now in District 2, exciting. Just to remind you that the supervisor can handle things like county parks, libraries, county libraries, the health and human services, the county is responsible for inspecting restaurants, but like potholes and things like that, that's going to be your city council member, that sort of thing. There is a few items I will mention is that there was small business grants, for COVID, and each of the supervisors was given $6 million to distribute to businesses impacted by COVID. There is still money from District 2 available. So if that's something that fits yourself, or people that you can contact me. I'm going to send all the contact information over to Eric, and he can pass it on to you. If you're interested in stats, the stats, the ethnic breakdown of your districts, I have all that, and I can send that. In fact, I'll send it over to Eric no matter what, so he can distribute it to you, so the latest statistics. But that I can just say high level. With the majority of folks in the district are Caucasian. Next, we have a good representation of Asian Americans, then Hispanic, and then African Americans. Roughly down in that order there. And if there's any questions beyond that, I'd be glad to take them. But in the meantime, I'm going to send over some basic information for Eric to distribute to folks, and that's contact information and things like that. Do not hesitate to contact our office on anything related to the county at all, and we will we'll get a quick turnaround on it for you.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for our county supervisor's office at this time? Sounds like not at this time, Mike, but we definitely appreciate you coming and reminding us that we're in Joel Anderson's district now, and I'll fix our agenda accordingly. So with that, we'll move along to San Diego City Council District 5, Kyrie Carter. Kyrie, are you here?
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me again. Just for the sake of audio quality, I'll spare you looking at my face tonight. Also, I know we have a lot to get to, so I'll try to move through quick. We've been really wrapped up in the budget review process here the last couple of weeks. Also with the passing the SAFE Act, our own SAFE Act, that is. So apologies for any delays, but the council member should have plenty more time for the next round of meetings here, community meetings, that is. So she plans to attend in June. Of course, that's subject to change, but we're going to make sure that she's there to speak to you directly next month. That being said, I am working on encampment outreach and cleanup in CMR. Also working on who would be responsible for managing the open spaces of sorts around the golf course. I know there's some confusion there going on, so working on that as well. Also, I've taken note of the speeding on Wintras and Seabridge, so I will also check on that. With that, I'll open up to questions, and I will also, of course, put my email in the chat.
I have a question, Eric.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Hi, Kyrie, how you doing?
Doing good, Kurt. How are you?
Good, good. Can you give us an update on the street paving issues that we need to have taken care of? I mean, like, are we next in line? Are we 6 months away? Is there any way you can let us know, keep us updated on that?
Sure. So yeah, like I said, we were really wrapped up in the budget review process. Part of that obviously is the infrastructure budget. So we did submit a priority list. I believe Carmel Mountain Road was on that list, but I can definitely get that complete list to you guys. Eric, I'll get that to you to distribute. But yeah, we are in the process of budget review. I think the mayor visions are going to come out soon, so we're going to have more work to do on the budget. But yeah, we are certainly advocating on our area's behalf, both obviously with the city, but again, Marnie is also on the National League of Cities Infrastructure Committee. So we're working on all levels to try to get as much money as we can to get our roads fixed. So that's the update I have for you tonight. And again, I'll get you that priority list that we did submit.
Great, we need it bad.
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
Sure. Mark, did you still have a question for Kyrie, or was that answered already?
No, I just wanted to ask you to communicate with me after you got something from traffic engineers. So
yes,
we got it. Attention.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm adding this to my to-do list. Any other questions for Kyrie Carter with Barney von Wilpert's office? Kyrie, doesn't sound like we have any other questions for you at the moment, but we will obviously be in touch as we always are.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Eric, as always.
Thank you. Okay, so the mayor's rep let me know that she wasn't going to be available tonight, so I don't believe we have anyone from Todd Gloria's office. I will go out on a limb and say we don't have anyone from San Diego Planning Department. Tony Kempton going once, twice. Okay, no. And do we have a representative from Scott Peters' office? No. Okay. I put on the agenda item K, New Urban West, new parks presentation and survey. What I failed to add was that Carly Keats is also here regarding maintenance. So I think probably Carly, do you want to go ahead and say what you have to say tonight, and then we'll basically wrap the meeting with the parks presentation and survey?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Go for it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone again. I apologize. I'm kind of looking at my notes to my side, so if I'm not looking right at you, I apologize. But I just want to give a couple of updates, and then on security and maintenance, and then also just kind of follow back up on some of the questions from last time. But I did a full sweep of the property and installed 15 new locks and chains, as well as new no trespassing signs. And we have the fencing company coming out next Wednesday to replace any panels that have been broken or removed or damaged, as well as connectors. So I know some of them have just kind of broken apart where somebody has kind of, broken it and gone through. So, and I, found about 20 of those places. So we'll spend a decent amount of time there just making sure it's all reconnected. The maintenance crews, they are continuing to go through unit by unit or area by area. We've also received some individual maintenance requests And a couple of areas I just wanted to, kind of mention, there'll be some trimming back of pine trees over near the fences over some sidewalks that, are not near any structures. So not kind of originally part of the typical kind of maintenance plan. So you'll see some work on some of that around the area. And then we know that there's a couple of spaces. Eric emailed me about a couple of areas near Shoal Creek that could be housing some homelessness or just people dumping things. So we are going to do a big trim back of bushes and plants and prevent, some hiding places and things like that to, make sure that that area is, just really eliminates any of that kind of potential. And then there's been a couple other neighbor requests just for any other trees or things they've been concerned about, and we are addressing those individually. So you can still go onto our website, thetrails@cmr.com /maintenance, and you can still email me those, or you can email them to Eric and he can email me. So we're still working through, all the area, and then any regrowth, we're going back through and doing those as well. So as you guys know, it's just a long process, but we're really working to get through it all and make sure that it meets all the standards. In terms of, someone last time brought up site plans and elevations. I think it was Kurt. We did provide a copy of the building plans to the master HOA for distribution to all the members. So I would reach out to them if they have not provided you all with that. And someone asked about timeline. Expected construction is towards the end of Q1 2023, so maybe like February, March 2023, but it's subject to change, obviously, as we continue to process through the city. And then there was a question about dust mitigations. So the EIR, as you all know, included a variety of dust control measures, including water trucks to water in areas that are being actively graded. And that happens at least 3 times a day. And then the local area pollution control district, or APCD, has a rule regarding dust, and we must take active steps to minimize fugitive dust. So I know it's kind of a funny technical term, but that's all part of the EIR, and we will adhere to that. And then the last kind of major question was about fencing, especially for the Walden and Chikorita Creek areas. So the fencing will have to all remain in place. And this is just a liability issue. And until we hand those areas over to the new HOA or dedicate to the city, the fences have to stay up. So that's the answer that we have for that. And then the last thing, we're going to have this presentation here in a minute, but, we are excited to have Lennar as our builder, and we are still the master developer, and we are partnering with them. And so they have extensive experience in the region, and we're really looking forward to the partnership. And so I know that you'll be hearing from Lennar tonight. So I just wanted to make sure that there was a note of that. So I hope that answers some of your questions. If you have any other ones, I'm happy to try to answer them or take them back and get them answered.
Yes, before I turn it over to anyone else, I wanted to, first of all, thank you for jumping on the Shoal Creek Drive corridor. I drive through there so often, I hadn't really noticed how bad it had gotten, and getting that cleaned up is going to be good.
Okay.
And then I live on Royal Melbourne, and several residents along this part of the street that backs up to Unit 7. A couple of people have had problems with insurance due to these large eucalyptus trees. And I know that I had put in a maintenance request about, getting those trimmed, and I think you guys trimmed some trees. However, there's several very tall eucalyptus that are kind of behind the 3rd and 4th house and the 6th and 7th house. They're towering over, and at least one resident has had their insurance canceled due to those particular trees. So I don't know if you know or not, but if you could find out if there's any plan to deal with those, that would be good. You know, people are getting their insurance canceled, and that's not a good thing. And it's because specifically of those eucalyptus trees and how flammable they are and how tall they are. So if you have an answer now, great. If not, please look into that and let me know. And if you need us to submit maintenance requests, we can do that again.
Okay. No, I don't have an answer. I mean, I know that, you know, our arborist has gone on site throughout everything and has made evaluations on the, you know, the health of all the trees. And we have obviously cut down some and trimmed some based on, you know, their health. But additional maintenance would be great. I mean, you've brought that one up right now, so I can document that. I don't think you need to send another one unless there was a specific, you know, one specific tree that you want to send me a photo of or something like that. But it sounds like it's kind of obvious based on when you get out there. So I will take that back and circle back with you. And if that other person with the insurance issue wants to specifically make a maintenance request there, you know, please encourage them to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we need to get through it pretty quickly because this parks presentation is going to eat up pretty much the rest of the meeting. June Ramos, I see you have your hand up, so go ahead, please. Quickly, if you can. Anybody else? I think June's question has to do with moving.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Jonathan, I'm here.
Go ahead, June.
Yeah, I have a quick question regarding the fence, the golfways near some of the fences. Jonathan mentioned in our meeting last time that the company will move some of the golfways for privacy and security reason. So are they still planning to do that?
Move what were they going to move exactly? I'm sorry.
Golfways or walkways.
Oh, the fence. Okay, so
yeah, some of them are like our house. It's really about maybe 24 inches away from our fences.
Carly, are you? Is that something that's on your radar?
Is he talking about the wrought iron fences or the temporary fences?
Yeah, the wrought iron fences, and there is.
Yeah, I believe
So-
all wrought iron fences are managed by the HOAs and not
Right,
by.
yeah, I agree. I'm talking about the walkways. You know, they used the golfways or golf. You know,
the
where
cart
the
paths.
cart path, right? They're too close to our fences.
Oh, so you're asking if they'll be moved in the future?
Yes, during
Yeah, it, you know, depend on where you are, but there are minimum setbacks, you know, per our plans in terms of where the, you know, the cart paths are, and it's all, you know, within the approved design guidelines by the city.
Okay. Well, because it's going to be a public user now, used to be just a golf user. Now it's going to be more people be walking using these walkways. So I think our privacy will be, you know, it will not be good.
So if I could get you to, I'll put my email, you know, in the chat if you'd like, to you, but you can also email me directly, you know, through our website, and I can help.
I did already. Okay. I haven't received a reply.
Oh, okay. I'll double check. I don't think I received it, so I apologize. But yeah, it's a case, but you know, I have to look exactly where it is, and we can kind of talk, and I can show you. But you know, it just kind of depends on where it is in you know, in the development plan.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands, and unless there's something really pressing on maintenance, we got to move on to this park thing because I believe it's probably going to eat up the rest of our time. And of course, we don't have to get kicked out of the room at 8, but a lot of us would like to probably be done by then. So unless there's anything super pressing, we'll go ahead and move on to the parks presentation. And I believe I had 2. Oh, there we go. So yeah, with that, take it away, folks.
Great. Okay, this is Rick Barrett with MIG. We're part of the design team, and I want to introduce, maybe to kick this off, Shannon Scoggins from City of San Diego and Jonathan Frankel, who you all know by now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Scoggins from the City of San Diego. Thanks so much for having us here tonight. We're here as a part of a public input process to design the parks that the trails at Carmel Mountain Ranch is required to build and construct as part of their development, and to get public input on the design of the parks themselves, just the parks. So really happy to be here, and thank you for your time. I am here with 3 other folks from the City of San Diego: Michelle Abelashon, who is Program Manager in Parks and Recreation, Tyler Canales, who is the District Manager, and Becky Laundres, who is the Area Manager.
Great. And if I may just kind of quickly go through the agenda, and we'll go fairly quickly here. We just did introductions. With me today from MIG also are Stephen Davidovos, Oscar Johnson, and Fernanda Suarez. And we're going to provide a brief background, item 2 on the project, the Parks project background, just a few seconds on the project schedule. I'm going to go through a overview of the 3 park sites. We'll have a facilitated discussion about each park. Once we get through the parks presentation, we will have a brief Zoom poll for each of the parks, and then we'll close and get you out of here on time. So with that, maybe Jonathan, can you speak to the first part of this slide, and then Shannon can provide some background into the park design process.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Frankel on behalf of New Urban West. Obviously know many of you over the past several years that we've been working on this project. Just very briefly, by way of background, in September of last year, the City of San Diego approved this project called the Trails of Carmel Mountain Ranch, which authorized the redevelopment of a portion of the former golf course. As part of the project, the approvals required the construction of 3 public parks, and that was to meet some regulatory requirements and requirements by the City of San Diego about park space relative to population. The City of San Diego had a requirement about the total acreage of parks provided to accommodate the anticipated increase in the number of residents in the community. So we are proposing just about 7.9, just shy of 8 acres of total parkland that is included within 3 separate areas. And that's what you're going to hear a little bit about tonight. Rick and Shannon and the team will walk you through where those are located, how big they are, and some options for potential amenities. As you know, the parks will be connected by a trail network. So the former golf cart paths will be adaptively reused to facilitate public access to the park and other local and regional amenities in the transit center, etc. So with that, Rick, I'll turn it back over to you, or maybe Shannon, and you can talk about.
I'm gonna take it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. So the public input process that I spoke about earlier is to design the conceptual design for the park, so the schematic design, what we call the general development plans for these parks, and that's what we're coming to the community planning group as a recognized public advisory body to the Parks and Recreation Department for your input on the design of these parks. Next slide, please. And so the GDP is the what we call the general development plan. This process, this public input process, consists of at least 3 community workshops or meetings with your community planning group. The first being tonight. And then we plan to come back to the CPG on July 13th. And our final workshop, or excuse me, that will be an action item, will be September 14th. So we do come to your CPG for a recommendation, and we will ask for a vote at that time. And then the next step after that is we take this forward, your recommendation, to the Park and Recreation Board, which is our city-wide park advisory body, for final approval of the general development plan. And that would be the extent of the public input process. After that, then we would take the developer, New Urban West would take the design of the parks through construction planning, design, bidding, to implementation. And the expectation here per the permit is that the developer will build the parks and then turn them over to the city. So they'll be conveyed in fee title to the city, and they will be owned, operated, and maintained by the Parks and Recreation Department.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. So I'll proceed with just an overview of the 3 park sites. And as you can see on this plan, this is fairly similar to the plan that was included on the flyer that went out. So here's the I-15 freeway, Carmel Mountain Road, and you can see the former golf course holes indicated here. The 3 park sites that we are speaking about are, and I want to point out that in the flyer, they were numbered park site number 1 here in the lower left, park site number 2 in the upper right, and then we are now using a placeholder name for each of them instead of a number. That's something we can talk about tonight, and certainly as we proceed through the GDP process. So the first park site is Shoal Creek on Shoal Creek Drive. The second, formerly known as park site number 2, is we are tentatively or preliminarily calling Eastbourne Neighborhood Park because it's on Eastbourne. And then the third park site, formerly known as park site number 3, we are now calling Walden Development Park. The phasing of these parks is tied directly to the phasing for the entire community. So the first phase of development is Eastbourne Park up here in the upper right. The second phase of development does not include a park site, but the third phase of development includes Shoal Creek Park. And then the fourth phase of development will include Walden Park. So that's the general overall community and park phasing. So we're going to go through each park fairly quickly and look at it in a little more detail. And again, this meeting is about getting your input. We have no designs yet. We'll come back with options in that second community workshop in July that Shannon referred to. So this is a great opportunity to present the park sites and to hear from you in terms of what you would like to see and perhaps not see at these park sites. So this first park, and we'll go in the order of the phasing. So Eastbourne Neighborhood Park, as you can see here, is 2.59 acres at the junction of Eastbourne Road and Carmel Ridge Road. And these asterisks are the points of entry that will be included, at least initially here in the eventual park design. These are photographs of the park sites, and this will be the same process and template for each of the 3 parks. So these are photographs of the Eastbourne Neighborhood Park as it exists today. This view on the left is standing on Eastbourne, looking generally south and west into the park site. And some of you are probably familiar with the large pepper trees and the brush. This photograph in the middle is standing near the top of the park site, looking directly west. And then on the right side, that is also standing at about the same location, but looking south. So you can see it has some fairly good views to the south. A little bit about the site and existing conditions. Again, this is the same diagram we looked at a couple slides ago with a little more information. So the site is approximately 580 feet long in the north-south direction. North is up on all these plans, and about 280 feet wide in the east to west direction. The spot grade at, or the spot grade at Eastbourne Road in this location is 645 foot elevation above sea level. At the south end, it is currently about 627, so about 18 feet of grade change, which is about 4% slope, as you may know, and certainly may have seen from those photographs I just showed. Generally good views from the approximately here, which is about the high point of the site. And there are some existing trees primarily around the perimeter of the site itself. We want to dive into now just some potential programming elements for these parks. And again, keep in mind, these are just conversation starters. We're just trying to prime the pump and get some input from you on these park sites. So we'll come back to this during the Zoom poll, which will be coming up once we get through the 3 park sites. So we've got 2 slides of images, 8 images total, that are just sort of, again, starting the conversation about park elements that could be included. We definitely want to hear from you in terms of, are these good, are these not good, or are there some additional things you would like to be included? So things that we've identified initially for your consideration, as depicted here, picnic areas with shade in the upper left, a standalone comfort station with most likely 2 units, 2 stalls, a dog park as depicted here in the lower left, and then a large passive play area with lawn as depicted in the lower right. Some additional possible park elements include 2 types of play for kids, nature-based play as depicted in the upper left, and then formal play areas or more traditional structured playgrounds. And then, excuse me, on the bottom, we have potentially a kiosk with information about the park and wayfinding information, and then different types of seating areas as depicted in the lower right. And I'm going to move on to the next park. Again, Shoal Creek would be the next park built as part of phase 3. Shoal Creek is located adjacent to Shoal Creek Drive in Royal Melbourne Square here on the left. It is 3.3 acres in site and also would have 2 points of entry here with this red asterisk at Shoal Creek Drive, and then on the lower right-hand southeast or southwest corner. These are photographs of that park site. The photograph on the left, this is looking northeast. This was a former sand trap with large boulders, which is a really kind of interesting formation. In the middle, we have, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but it's kind of the high point of the site with 2 large pine trees and some pretty dramatic views from that high point, especially to the east. And then this view on the far right is standing about where the boulders are on the left, but looking directly west. So you can see there's a low point out here, and then it begins to climb up. And the edge of the park on the west is right about where my cursor is, if you can see that, or about 2/3 of the way up the photograph. So in terms of existing conditions, again, the same diagram we looked at 2 slides ago with more information. The large circles are the existing trees around the perimeter. These 2 olive-colored circles are those 2 pine trees. The high point on the site here, approximately 655-foot elevation. The low point, as we saw in that previous image, about 640 foot, so it slopes down in this direction to the southwest. And then the elevation at Shoal Creek Drive is 640 feet also. So there's a fairly steep grade now down from this high point down to Shoal Creek Drive. And I forgot to point out on the previous image for Eastbourne, this dashed brown line is the existing trail that is out there today. And then the park perimeter is this black dashed line. And then finally, that photograph I showed of the former sand trap with the boulders is located here about halfway between the high point and the low point of the site. Some of these images are repeated, but again, don't let that dissuade you from suggesting other things that should be considered. So again, here we feel picnic areas with shade would be appropriate, potentially a comfort station at Shoal Creek, outdoor gathering areas, since we have some topography to work with, would be really interesting, and then large passive play area. And similar additional elements include the nature-based play, formal playground play areas as depicted in the upper right, kiosk with wayfinding in the lower left, and then seating areas including benches as depicted in the lower right. So let's move to the third park, which is Walden Park. And Walden, again, would be constructed with the 4th phase of development. Walden Park is 1.9 acres and is located near the intersection of Etude Road and Esprit Avenue and Essence Road. Again, 1.9 acres, the blue line is the boundary of the park site, and it has 3 points of entry. These 2 here are directly located on Esprit Avenue, and then this one to the north is where the existing trail comes into the site from the north. Here are 3 photographs of the park itself. This is a view, let me go back one. Oh, sorry. The view here on the left is looking north on the trail. We'll come back to these boulders in a second, but you can see there's a nice curving existing trail with boulders scattered throughout the project. The boulders near the street are larger than the majority of the boulders on the site. The middle photograph is traversing a little bit further into the site, about halfway into the site, and you can see this one large tree, which will show up in a second on the plan view that's looking north. And then the view on the far right is standing near the entrance of the park, looking directly west. So you can see the large boulders near the park entry, as well as Esprit Avenue or Esprit Drive out here on the left. The park itself is about almost 360 feet wide and about 390 feet long in the north-south direction. These three darker brown circles are the large boulders that are, I'm sure those of you who live nearby have walked here and driven by are familiar with the boulders, which this is referred to as the rocks, general by those who live and play near here. The brown dashed line again is the existing trail that would run through the park. And then these circles over here, the lighter brown, those are the smaller boulders that are currently scattered throughout the site. Again, 2 points of entry here where the trail comes in from the north, where the trail comes down to the street near the intersection of Essence Road, and then where it comes out to the street at 82 Road, and then a few trees here on the northeast corner of the park site itself. Potential park elements that we want to discuss with you, and certainly for your consideration. Again, picnic areas with shade, possibly precast concrete play elements like this precast concrete ping pong table, outdoor gathering areas, passive play areas, again, depicted in the lower right. The two types of nature-based play that we've looked at before in the upper left and upper right, a kiosk with wayfinding, and again, seating areas with benches throughout the park as well. So with that, we wanted to open this up to a discussion about each of the three parks. And what we'd like to do to keep this moving is just to hear from you in terms of what do you think, what are you liking, what would you like to see? Are any of the images representative of what you would like to see? Are there additional things you would like to see? And are there certain things you certainly would not like to see? So again, I just have a repeat here of the sort of site conditions, the site photographs, and here we've clustered the 8 photographs. And here we're talking specifically about Eastbourne. So I thought we could talk about this for a few minutes, and then we'll go to the Zoom poll, and then maybe come back to any discussion about the results from the Zoom poll and get some additional input, and then we'll go on to Shoal Creek and then on to Walden. So with that, if I could turn it over to you, Eric, and community members about certain things you've seen.
Real quick on the Eastbourne Park, is the community art gallery studio, is that still part of this whole project, or is that separate from parks? Or do you not know?
I do not know. Jonathan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Can't hear you, Jonathan.
Sorry, the dreaded double mute.
Yeah.
So they are separate and apart, Eric. That is a good question. Okay. But no, that is not part of the park space. That will be a separate that will be a separate development plan.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go in the order of hands that I see on my screen, and June Ramos, you are
okay
on top. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you plan to install security cameras?
Security cameras, great question. We are not planning anything yet, but that's certainly a really good comment that I think we should consider.
Okay, great.
As a potential park element. And Eric, do you want to go through the chat as you just did with June?
I'm sorry, I stepped away for a second. What happened?
I was just asking, do you want to go through the chat as you just did with June, starting at the top?
Oh, I'm going with raised hands here.
Got
and
it. Okay.
The chat there's a
And
lot.
by the way, the chat we will have a record of. So if we don't get to your specific comment in the chat, we will certainly incorporate it into our summary of the workshop.
Yeah, with everything I'm managing here, watching the chat is challenging.
Yeah. Okay. Don't worry about that then.
Mark.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment about the site of the park, site 1 on the Shoal Creek. And we love parks, we want park, and this park going to be just 5 houses away from me. Beautiful, walking distance. I love the park, but we would like to have safe park, right? We would like to have safe access, public access to this park. And there's traffic, again, traffic on Shoal Creek. Why the reason, I would like to remind to our community, the reason why we built the Shoal Creek pedestrian bridge, for the kids safely walk through Ted Williams Parkway on a site, why we didn't put the bridge on the school side? Why we put the bridge on the opposite side, on the site where it's going to be Unit 8, and going to be there 92 cars, and just from across the street from access point to the Unit 7, where is going to be the park, is going to be coming cars from 92 units. It's going to be approximately 780 ADT going to be there. It's the impact analysis for New Urban West done by Lincott, Lau, and Greenspan engineers back in January 30, 2020. They estimated it's going to be 780 ADT. So how hell people going to be going to the park if it's going to be cars coming across the street, trying to get to the Shoal Creek, okay? So to mitigate this impact, I represent here neighbors on Wintras Lane and also on Stony Gate Place. So we're requesting reducing the numbers of units on Unit 8 so everybody can enjoy the park, okay? Not just show at the park there, okay? So we would like request New Urban West seriously consider my request to reduce units to 40 units, okay? Not 92 units, okay? So kids can go to the park, cross the street, and enjoy the play in the park. So this is what we're requesting, okay? We don't want to see 92 units there, cars rushing, making a turn, and people crossing the street, enjoy the park and struck by the car. So who are we going to sue? New Urban West or city? It's going to be city because it's going to be a city property, city street, okay? We put this bridge with the federal, state, and city funds. We spent $4 million on that bridge for safety of our kids. We don't want to see our kids struck by the cars again. Or move the park across the street to the Unit 8 if but I don't want to see a kid injured or, God forbid, lost life. And the blood of the kids going to be on the hands of New Urban West. If they not consider seriously to reduce numbers of units on Unit 8.
Well, we gotta move on to another question.
Okay, so this is, we love the park, okay? We love the park, but have to be safe park. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Daniel Clayson. Daniel Clayson.
Yeah, I was hit by the double mute myself. Sorry.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, log my preference here for the Eastbourne site. I know my neighbors and I would like to see the passive play areas or the nature-based play, not so much a dog park for that site.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. John Schroeder.
I have a couple of clarification questions. The first one is the parks have designated entrance areas. Does that imply that there will be fencing around the parks?
Good question. We have not gotten to that point of determining if fencing is needed or part of the park programming. They were just, those access points are just where there is a connection between the existing trail and sidewalks adjacent to the park, but that's a really good question.
Oh, okay. And the reason I asked the question then is I noticed also that some of the trails go through the park. So they, like you said, they go in through the park at an entrance point and exit at the exit point. So if fences, imply gates that are locked at certain times, I'm concerned that the trail network, may not be accessible after hours to people who want to walk, adults who want to walk the trail. So that's my only concern, is that the trails are open to walk through the parks for a maximum amount of time per day.
Excellent, good comment.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, John. Lisa W.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can.
I was just wondering, the existing golf trails, golf paths that are those going to be torn up and like new paths laid down, or is the existing concrete just going to be it as far as the paths go?
Jonathan, do you want to comment on that specifically?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the cart paths where we can where we can utilize the existing path, we will. Where we have to make repairs, we will. But the intention is not to rip up all of the existing path. It is to reuse as much as possible.
That's disappointing.
Okay, Eric Spadali.
Hello, yes, I just wanted to get some clarification on the flyer that you'd sent out. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at the flyer and the nice little graphic that you made, and it seems now that the sand areas are the green areas, and the green areas are where the structures are going to go, or is this thing color coded correctly? You understand the question?
Are you saying differentiate, where are you asking where the parks are actually located?
Right, so in your graphic, you have green areas and sand colored areas. However, where you have the park, site 1, site 2, etc., they're sand colored. And I guess I was under the impression that's where the structures are going.
And what do you mean by structures?
In other words,
development.
Or the development itself. So I'm looking, are the sand areas, what does that represent in your graphic?
On the flyer?
Yes.
Those are a combination of the development and park sites, but for this presentation, we updated that graphic at the beginning to show that the park sites had the 3 park sites have a slightly different shade. In fact, they're green, and the development sites remain as is, as beige.
I see. So the graphic and the flyer is just something that was recycled and was not updated, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And so then I guess that completely disorients me. Now on unit number 2, am I to now assume that maybe that green belt area that's at the northern end, is that now is that really in fact a green area, or is this not updated? Now that could be a driveway or structure.
Let me go back to that slide.
So it would be unit 2, the north end of unit 2.
Yeah, sorry for skipping through here.
It's okay.
Exactly. So now move up Windcrest towards Seabridge.
Yeah, what I can clarify is that the 3 park sites again are, in order of phasing, are Eastbourne in the northeast,
right? Shoal
Creek in the southwest, and then Walden.
Yeah, I understand all that. Southeast. Now, if you go up Windcrest Lane, rather, heading north towards Seabridge, there's a little belt there, a green belt. Is that something that is just Is that finalized? Is that something that's actually going to be a green belt with a trail, or is that also maybe subject to having structures on it? Yep, you've got the cursor exactly where I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly. Well, these are, this is open space with trails running through it. It's not a formal city park though.
I see. And so you could put a structure on there if you decided to, or is this finalized that will be open space? That's my question.
Yes, I believe it is. Jonathan, do you want to verify that or clarify that?
Yes, that is correct. I can verify that area will be private open space, meaning it'll be maintained by an HOA and not the city.
Got it. And Jonathan, will there be a driveway, i.e. traffic flow out of that area and onto Sea Bridge? Or
No,
that
there
just
is no
trail
vehicular
only?
access proposed in that area.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because there's already so much traffic flow coming out of the other. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you. So
okay, let me
there's
go back.
the distinction between open space versus park space.
Exactly.
That's what I need to clarify. Thank you very much.
They're only addressing the 3 city park areas.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I just want to confirm that. Thanks, Eric. Thank you.
You're welcome, Eric. Jerry Blanton.
Yeah, I'm just have questions on security. Are there going to be hours in which the parks are going to be open and hours in which they'll be closed? And if there are people that are violating those rules, will that be a police function or a city function? And also, I'd be concerned at some point about squatters in the parks who think they own it and start camping there and things like that. How will those be managed?
Do we have someone from the city who can answer that question?
So I can at least talk to you about what typically happens in city parks. Typically, our parks do not have curfews unless there is a documented infraction of municipal code violations. Then we can proceed with the park curfew. So most parks do not have a curfew. They're open all night long.
And then, of course, the police are responsible for enforcement of any issues that come up.
So if we have a bunch of college kids that want to have a midnight beer party, that's okay with the city? Because it would not be okay with the people that live on the park.
No, that's when you'd call the police and they'd come and stop that.
Okay.
We hope. I don't think anyone wants to see that. Jen Singer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to say that I would love to see like some type of splash pad. I know they have one in Forest Ranch and it's utilized heavily by that community. It gets really hot out here during the summer. I think that would be a nice addition. I would want it near probably Eastbourne just because that's closer to my house, but any of them would be great. And then the other question I have is for the Eastbourne Park, where the trail starts at the opposite corner, I think on Carmel Ridge, and there's a set of restrooms that are now closed down there. But all of these paths that are going to be open, that are going to remain running through the open space, how is that open space going to be maintained that backs up to the parks? Because right now it's just infested with like packs of coyotes and stuff like that. So if you're essentially going to put like some grass and a bunch of kids right next to all this open space that's just going to be allowed to continue to grow as brush essentially until it's cleared once or twice a year. I'm concerned about just the safety of, walking through those paths, with the animals that are not afraid of humans.
I believe those areas you're referring to are going to ultimately be maintained by the HOAs for the new development. Is that correct, Jonathan?
That is correct, Eric. And so those areas, Jen, it's a great question, are subject to ongoing brush management requirements by the city. So part of our plan requires us to comply with ongoing brush management. So there will be a maintenance crew there regularly to maintain those areas.
And by regularly and by these requirements, you mean more than it's being attended to now? Because right now they're also subject to those requirements. And essentially, like I mean, the fire danger alone from those areas. And I think we were told it was going to just return back to quote unquote like natural plants, which is dead brush. So is there a plan to actually maintain it a little bit more than its current state?
Yes. So the requirement that is being followed now, Jen, is related to fire safety. So that maintenance, there are minimum fire standards. The brush management plan goes well beyond that. And so they are actually two different standards. And so we completely understand that there needs to be regular maintenance of those areas, especially adjacent to a park. So you are absolutely correct. There will be ongoing maintenance far above and beyond what is occurring currently.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Bruce Bergman.
Yeah, I think one of my questions was answered around the open space. I'm talking about Shoal Creek Park because I know that park abuts to an area that you've designated as open space. So I'm assuming the HOA or somebody will maintain that. You've also got ingress on the other side of that park, not the Shoal Creek side. So where is that connecting? Where is that ingress coming from? The open space? Is that how it works?
You're asking about, Bruce,
Yes.
You're asking about access down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is just where
Yes.
tentatively we've identified a park access point, and there certainly could be others along this trail because it runs, you know, adjacent to the park boundary, and there will be trails walking past within the park, certainly.
Okay.
And the purpose of this symbol was just to note where the park, each of the park sites meet an existing trail or a street or a sidewalk.
Right. Okay. And I know that kind of to Mark's point about, I'm lagging, about the kids coming down the bridge and being on the wrong side of the road. I mean, I would love to see some sort of structured playground or, comfort station, whatever you want to call it, at the north end of this park. But I know the kids are going to want to cross the street there. I mean, I guess I would echo what Mark's saying. I mean, bridge and wait to be picked up from their parents, and a lot of people park right along that section of Shoal Creek. But maybe you could find some way to put in a crosswalk or a mini pedestrian bridge or something that would make it safer.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've got background noise coming from somewhere. Can't find it. Mark Mal, I see you have your hand up again, and
yes,
please be brief.
Okay, brief. The park, mainly concerned about the park on Shoal Creek. It's going to be a parking spaces there inside the park because this is the largest park. It's a 3.3 acres. So the people can, because the public park, people going park inside or by the street. If we're going to be by the street, there's no way to wind the street right there. It's going to be a cars coming across. So tell me about the parking situation for the park. People coming from all over. It's not like for our neighborhood park. It's going to be, it's a public park. So people going to come from Poway, Penasquitas, name it. So it's going to be a parking or not? That's my question about the parking. Legit, right?
Yes, thank you. City of San Diego, do we have an answer on parking?
So neighborhood parks, these are smaller neighborhood parks. They're designed to be accessed by people in the neighborhood walking to them. They're not community parks that draw and serve a larger population. There hasn't been a determination whether parking will be provided or not, but as you can see, based on the site plan, adding parking to the park would drastically reduce the amount of recreational space that could be provided as part of the park. So initial analysis was to not provide parking. However, we're here for public input. So we want to hear your thoughts and opinions and see what we can do to incorporate them.
Well, if you're going to incorporate inside, it's going to be even smaller park. So if you're going to put the parking spaces inside the park, so I guess is going to be parking off street, right? So this is just across the driveway, whereas the 92 units going to be, it's 200 cars coming off. So we need to fix the problem here.
All right,
So
Mark, thank you. It's a legitimate question. We understand the units. And I think there is no parking requirement for neighborhood parks. These are supposed to be people are not supposed to be driving to these parks. They're supposed to be walking.
Well, I understand it, but the parents meeting the kids when we walk through the bridge by the Stony Gate over there, just by the park. We park right now, right there.
Yeah, I know.
So we're going to continue doing this.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is something.
So we need to fix this with this park.
Hi, I think some of us have questions as well too.
Yeah, I know. We're moving it along.
Can I ask a question? Because this has been coming up in the chat a few times. I just have a question. Will the maintenance of the park will that be provided by current residents or by the new residents that will be purchasing homes in the area? Can you clarify? Thank you.
7.9 acres of park land that we're talking about right now will be operated and maintained by City of San Diego Parks and Recreation Department staff, not an HOA. That's only for the park parcels. The other open space that you see on the plans that is in a sand color would be maintained by the new HOA, correct, Jonathan?
Yes, Shannon, that is correct. So we will be constructing all of the parks and delivering them to the City of San Diego, as Shannon just described. They will be maintained accordingly. The other open space areas that will be maintained by the master HOA are denoted on that previous graphic, the full site plan in green.
Okay, Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, one question hasn't been answered. In my former life, when I worked on these projects, we always knew the budget. And it would be really good for the community to know what the budget is for the construction budget is for each of the three parks, so that our requests can be a little more reasonable. We're asking for the moon right now, but in all honesty, 3 acres, 2.5 and 1.9 really are small parks. And so it'd be nice if we could know what the budgets are, and that would really help us kind of understand what's being planned, because I know that, the design fees and everything have been figured out on how this is going to go down with some idea on what the elements are. So is that possible to know right now?
Jonathan, do you want to take this one?
Certainly. Yes, Kurt is absolutely correct. There is a budget, and it is on a per acre basis. It is $1.5 million per acre.
There you go, Kurt.
Thank you.
$1.5 million per acre. The last hand. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I had one more question.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Lighting.
Yes.
These areas need lighting. I know there's ways to keep it from shining in people's faces, but as I understand it, there's going to be lighting on all the trails. We need to make sure we have lighting at the parks for safety and security. Anybody disagree?
I don't think anybody would disagree with
No.
that.
The parks have to have security lighting. Minimum 1/2-foot candle. And Kurt, they will be designed to meet all the ADA standards.
Right, great, thanks.
Okay, the last hand I see is Yukon Palmer.
Hi, so my question is just regarding the Walden Park. On the map you provided, there's a trail and it looks like there's an entrance on the north end. And I'm wondering if this trail continues on, or if this trail just kind of dead ends at the end of the park right there.
No, this trail would continue through the park. It starts at Esprit Avenue, continues through the park, and there'll be other trails, walkways in the park, as I mentioned, and then the trail continues north as part of that overall 5-mile trail system.
Okay, so that will be private property on the north end of that park, is that correct?
Yes,
So it goes through the private property?
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's private property, but it has public access.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Samuel Park.
Hi, yeah, I just had a question regarding Walden. I know those boulders are there, and I'm just wondering, is there a plan to maybe just keep those boulders there? And that's been part of the identity of that area for when the golf course was there. But I'm just curious, is there thought in terms of whether the boulders will stay or moved, or some of them stay, some of them moved? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, folks.
Yes, in fact, when we get to the Zoom poll here in a minute, that is one of the questions we're asking about retaining the boulders. We think from a design standpoint, they're a great feature, and they can be relocated to be more deliberate in their placement and be incorporated into, you know, a more aesthetically pleasing and attractive and area, and even in fact, potentially part of the nature-based play.
Okay, so I have another hand popping up, and I'm going to say that this is going to be the last question before we move on to the polling that these folks want to do. And then there's a bunch of stuff going on in the chat, and you know, I'm going to sift through that and get that to New Urban West, you know, so that we can address any of that. You know, obviously there are a lot of elements coming together here: city parks, private development, open space, etc. So there's lots of different interests here. But with that, I will call on Brittany, who has her hand up, and then ask that we move on to the polling portion of this.
Thanks, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I just wanted to verbalize my desire for a dog park down at the Shoal Creek site. I think it's important down there because of the condos and the residents that are in apartment complexes and things like that. There's, you know, for those residents in the community that aren't fortunate enough to afford actual housing with backyards, I think that space to have their dogs run off leash is important for them. So yeah, just want to verbalize that. No question here.
Thank you. Okay, so keep Rick and company, go ahead and take it away.
So here's what we want to do. We want to, this has been great input. You guys have been really fantastic, both input specific to the parks, general overall comments about the park, the three parks in general. It's all super helpful. And, you know, 80, 90 different chat items. That's fantastic input. So what we're going to do is Stephen's going to throw up a poll. We'll go through, I think, each of the parks just in a row. But the first poll question is regarding Eastbourne Park. So I've got the park image or the play elements or the park elements behind those 8 images. So what we'd like you to do here is select your preference for program elements that we've indicated in this presentation tonight. And with this, it'll tell us, you know, where things are preferred, where things maybe are more important to you and also less important. And I'll let Stephen moderate that when we have full input. We're getting up there, 40% have voted. Some are going up, some are going down. This is really great. And Stephen, of the 84 people, that includes those of us that are not voting.
Can someone direct us on how to respond to the poll? I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, I don't know that we're 100% clear on how this is supposed to work. So
Steve, oh, go ahead, Stephen.
So folks are supposed to click on the images of what they're preferring.
A poll should have popped up in your Zoom window.
and it'll
It
give
didn't.
you
You
a
have to find it.
choice.
Well,
It'll
if you're
give you
not,
a choice.
yeah, if you're not seeing it, what you have to do is you have to click on the bottom where you have all your options, mute, video, etc., and go over to more. And under more, you will see polls and whatever it's called. Hit that, and then that's where the poll will pop up for you.
Yeah, there's a poll button down there, and if it's not readily visible, it should be under the more, where you see the 3 dots across the bottom of your screen.
Also, if you've clicked away from the presentation area, like you're in a browser or something like that, the poll won't automatically show up. You need to click back into the Zoom meeting.
Yes, thank you, Bruce.
That was cool. One just popped up.
Maybe take another 30 seconds here to get input.
Jerry, did you have a question while we're waiting for people to finish this?
Nope, wrong button.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Okay, we've got 63 respondents, which is good. Stephen, so let's end the polling and let's see what the results are. So as I see it here, the seating areas are the most favorable part of the proposed elements or possible elements, followed by picnic areas with shade and nature-based play over formal play by almost 2 to 1. And then behind the nature passive play areas would be a comfort station, followed by formal play, dog park, and then kiosk and wayfinding. So that's really helpful. That provides some good initial input into what we wanted to hear from you tonight. So if we could just repeat the same thing, we'll go to the next park and go to, now that we've got the system down, go to Shoal Creek Park. So same questions here on Shoal Creek. We're going to have 2 questions. So the first question has to do with which we're looking at now, has to do with the park elements, like we just did for Eastbourne. And then we have a site-specific question for Shoal Creek coming up here in a minute.
I think people are getting it down now.
Yeah. Let's just give it another 30 seconds or so.
I didn't even realize I had this functionality in my Zoom. I might be able to use this for other things.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here we've closed the poll, and here the top preferred preference for park programming elements are picnic areas with shade, followed in a tie for second with both a split between passive play, nature-based play, followed by outdoor gathering areas. I'm sorry, seating areas. I missed that at the bottom. Seating areas and picnic areas with shade, both ranked at the top with 69% of the voting, followed by both types of play area, passive play, nature-based play, and again, followed by outdoor gathering and formal play areas. And again, kiosk and wayfinding at the bottom. And so, Stephen, let's go to the second question for Shoal Creek. And so the question on Shoal Creek, the specific question here, if you remember during the presentation and those that have been out there, I referred to a high point on the site. And let me just sort of go back to it in the background here. I think you can move your polling around, but again, here, if you can see the site image behind, this is a question pertaining to these two large pine trees and the high point on the site. And so would you like to see the existing high point and large specimen trees be incorporated into the park design if possible? Again, we're getting good input now that people have it down. And also we have, if you have some other thoughts on that, you can certainly let us know in the chat, as we indicated with that third choice at the bottom. Sorry. Okay, well, I think it's pretty overwhelming. Yes, there is strong support for maintaining the high points, the existing high point and large specimen trees, and incorporating them into the design if possible. So thank you for that really good input. So we're the final poll. Again, now that we have this down, we want to move on to the third and final park of Walden Park. And we have two questions here. The first question is the general question about the park elements that we've portrayed. We've gotten really good input tonight on other park elements like fencing and splash pads and lighting. But again, this question is about the 8 images that we included in the presentation. Okay, we're almost there. Good, I think we're just about there. So again, seating areas ranks very high, followed by nature-based play, and then equally ranked passive play areas with picnic areas with shade, followed by outdoor gathering areas, precast concrete play elements, formal play areas, and then kiosks and wayfinding as well. And so we want to go on to the final question, second question for Walden. So this just came up in the conversation when we were talking about the boulders at Walden. So would you like to see the existing boulders be incorporated into the park design if possible? And if you have other thoughts on those, you can certainly post that in the chat. And I think we're there. So again, overwhelming support for incorporating the boulders into the design of the parks where possible. So thank you for that. That was really, really helpful. I think that completes the polling. Maybe we can pull that off the screen. And I can go back to the closing slide, which is next steps. Okay, so again, really fantastic input tonight. We'll capture the chat suggestions with Eric. We've taken a bunch of notes. Stephen's been maintaining a mural board, which is basically like a wall graphic, like you've seen us do when we had meetings at the library. So we will collect all these comments. We'll prepare input and meeting notes from tonight. So with that, I'll turn it back to Shannon and we'll just talk about next steps. And again, the next community workshop is planned for July 13th. Shannon, any closing thoughts there, and Jonathan?
July 13th, yep. And so the design, the presentation that we bring on July 13th will come with two conceptual designs for each park, two alternatives, and we'll incorporate the input that we received tonight. And there'll be a discrete difference between the two alternatives. And we'll also ask for your input on the conceptual design. And then the final meeting will be sort of a preferred alternative, if you will, for the vote that will happen in September. So thank you so much.
So the next you'll be needing time on our July agenda. Is that what you said?
Are you meeting in July?
I believe, yeah, we certainly plan to.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yes, we would like to have another workshop.
Great. Okay, not a problem. So does that conclude the parks presentation from all the city, the New Urban West, and anyone else?
Jonathan,
Yes,
I believe this
it does for me and for MIG. Jonathan, any closing comments, thoughts?
No, thank you all very much for this input. And I just wanted to make 2 points of clarification. I saw a number of questions in the chat. One is the HOA, the new HOA to be formed, that is separate and apart from the existing Carmel Mountain Ranch Master Association. So none of these open space areas will be maintained by the existing HOA. There will be no costs for existing homeowners associated with that maintenance. So I just wanted to make that clear. Secondly, just to clarify with respect to the trails, when I say that we're trying to reuse them, that's only where it's feasible to do so. There's actually two kind of components of the trail: a new portion, which will be all new concrete, and then the existing trails where it's feasible to reuse them when they're in good condition. We completely acknowledge that many of the trail segments are not in good condition and cannot be used. So it will be a comprehensive network of trails that will all be functional, usable, and attractive. So I just wanted to make sure we are not in any way proposing to keep them in their current condition and just say simply, here you go ahead and use them. They will be repaired where feasible, reused where feasible, and if not, they will be fully replaced with new concrete.
How wide are those?
What's that, Kurt?
How wide are the paths going to be?
Oh, how wide?
They range in width, Kurt, and typically they're between 5 and 8 feet.
Okay, and I saw the request. I would request if you guys could please, if you folks could send me the presentation that you gave tonight, the PowerPoint or whatever file that, or maybe however you have it, PDF, PowerPoint. I'll share it with the mailing list that I have, and then I'm going to put my email in the chat because there are a lot of names I recognize that I know are on my list, and then a lot of new faces that we haven't seen before. So there's my email is in the chat. Please make a note of it, and I will add you to the distribution list where I send out meeting agendas and other attachments that I receive either from the city, from New Urban West, or any other source. So that there's roughly one email a month. So yeah, all right. And that, you know, there was a ton of stuff going on in the chat, and we're going to share that with these folks so that you know, they're aware. I saw a lot of discussion about buffers, and you know, that's an issue that this board spent a lot of time working on, and I think the buffers that are in the current site plan are the buffers. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yes, Eric, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is the buffers that we have previously worked with the CPG, those of course remain. And then with respect to buffering from the new parks, that is absolutely feedback that we understand and appreciate, and we're going to talk with MIG and our team about how to incorporate those into the plan.
All right, cool. All right, so we've exceeded our general meeting time here, although since we're not constrained by a room at this point, I suppose, it's fine. However, unless there's anything else from this discussion, I'm going to move on to Chair's report and wrap up. Good. Okay, so regarding the Chair's report, I don't really have anything new on the city's revision to Council Policy 600-24. They're still steaming ahead with that, so we can expect whatever comes out of the Land Use and Housing Committee at City Council to probably go before City Council sometime later this year. I don't know if Kyrie's still here, if he knows when that will be or not. Doesn't.
I do not.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I do not, but I will check on that for you.
Yeah, if you could. And I saw a comment fly by in the chat about schools. That was definitely part of the deal that New Urban West made with Poway Unified and City of San Diego. So there was money given to Poway Unified for schools that was agreed to by Poway Unified, and the city signed off on that. So that's why there's no new schools being built. Okay, so another item of information on the Chair's report has to do with, really quickly, I got an email from Joseph Jimenez at the City of San Diego, I believe, senior traffic engineer. And this is the gentleman who I'll contact regarding the Windcrest issue. He said there's going to be a request of members of community. They evaluated the intersections of Windcrest and Bolton and Montfort and Bolton for stop signs. And he says the intersection of Windcrest and Bolton met the criteria established in Council Policy 200-08 for the installation of a stop sign facing westbound traffic, and the intersection of Montfort Court and Bolton met the criteria. So it sounds like those two locations will be getting stop signs. But obviously that's not necessarily going far enough regarding the traffic situation there and the upcoming increased traffic situation. And then there's definitely interest in finding out about the community art gallery / studio. So I guess if Jonathan, you could maybe contact me offline so I can answer some of those questions. And I believe that's all. I'm just going through emails that I've gotten from community members, and I think we've covered it. So if there's no objection, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting until we come back in June already, and that's going to be June 8th, if I'm not mistaken. That is the second Wednesday in June. So there will not be city parks. The city won't be with us, and New Urban West will be with us likely for maintenance issues, but not parks in June, and we'll be revisiting parks again in July. We had phenomenal attendance tonight, probably the most I've seen in a long, long time. So, people are definitely interested in the parks issue. So I appreciate that. And if you want to get added to the mailing list, my email's in the chat. And with that, I'd say we're adjourned.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Good night, all. Thank you so much.